Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Voting for parliamentary elections concludes in Sri Lanka, final result likely to be announced tomorrow. Dominica announces highest national honour for India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his contribution during the COVID-19 pandemic. And 43rd Annual India International Trade Fair begins in New Delhi with the theme Viksit Bharat at 2047. Voting for parliamentary elections has concluded in Sri Lanka. The final result is likely to be announced on Friday, according to the poll body. The ballot boxes will be shifted to the counting centres on Thursday evening, where vote counting will commence. President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuraya, former President Dr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, SJB leader Sajith Premadasa cast their votes earlier this morning. Voters exercised their right to vote at over 13,400 polling centres from 7 in the morning till 4 in the evening, while voter turnout was reported to be around 50% at 2 p.m. The final tally is yet to be announced by the Election Commission. The elections are important as they are expected to be completely redefine the political landscape of the island nation. DD India's Dr. Ahmed Moin Faruqi joins us live from Colombo. So it's the first major test for the ruling National People's Power Party led by Dissanayake. Tell us how smooth was the polling today?
Tanvi, to begin with, yes, you're absolutely right. It's a very important test for the ruling NPP government and the President Anura Kumara Dissanayake. Today, of course, the voting had been largely peaceful. There were no incidents anywhere across the island, except for maybe a few incidents where there were some natural causes because of which certain incidents had happened. But barring that, there were no incidents of law and order situation anywhere in the island. As of now, we have been told that the observers for the election have they have opined that the voter turnout will be somewhere around 60 to 65%, which is considerably lesser than what we had seen during the presidential election. In the presidential election, the voter turnout was reported to be 78%, and that's a huge drop from there. Even if it drops to 65%, it's a drop of 13%, and that's something which has not happened in previous occasions. Normally, what we have seen is that presidential elections cross about 80% mark, and the parliamentary elections is about shy of about another 5 to 6%. But this time around, this has been quite surprising that the voter turnout is not as high as it was anticipated. At the same time, we would also want to mention that right now I'm standing just outside one of the counting centers in Colombo, and gradually one after the other, the buses are bringing the ballot boxes to this counting center, and once the postal ballots will be counted, thereafter the ballot boxes will be opened and the counting of those votes will commence. Most likely we'll start to get to hear with regard to the results of the postal voting by 10 p.m. tonight, as informed by the Election Commission. And later on tomorrow, we'll get to know the trends with regard to what would emerge from the entire election as such. Tanvi.
Okay, Dr. Faruqi, we've been discussing this earlier also. How is President Disanayake's party, the NPP, expected to fare in this election? And also post-elections, what is likely to be the focus of his government, especially economically and in foreign relations?
Tanvi, you see, it's a very difficult task to assess now, because primarily speaking, President Anura Kumara Dissanayake had not secured 50% of the vote in the presidential elections itself. He had secured about 42.7%, which was way short of the 50% mark that is required. And normally speaking, the winners of the presidential elections, they get to secure somewhere close to the majority, barring the previous occasion when the SLPP managed to secure a two-third majority comfortably. and that was riding on a nationalistic plank. But now what we are seeing is a desire for change from among each of the Sri Lankan people, and that's something which has brought about a complete change of the guard, from the old guard to the new guard. NPP, which normally used to secure about 3% of the vote in the presidential elections, this time around secured 42%, and now we are anticipating. The experts have said that there is a possibility that they can secure a majority, but it will be very difficult to say what exactly will be the range of numbers. To begin with, yes, there are no exit polls, there are no opinion polls here in Sri Lanka, so therefore we need to see how much will be the number that they could muster. Secondly speaking, with regard to what will be the task that will lie ahead, 21st of November will be the time when the new parliament will convene, and they will discuss the agenda with regard to what the government will be planning to go ahead for the next 5 years. Thereafter, a vote on account will be presented so that the first 3 or 4 months of the next year will be taken care of and it can be accounted. And thereafter, in the next year, in February or March, that will be the time when the budget proposals will be formally presented before the new parliament. That budget proposal will include several of the reform agendas which President Desanayake had been promising during his election campaign.
Okay, we leave it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Moin Faruqi, with those updates from Colombo. The Commonwealth of Dominica is set to acknowledge India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi with its most prestigious national accolade, the Dominica Award of Honour. This recognition is an acknowledgement of Prime Minister Modi's significant contributions to Dominica during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as his efforts to enhance the bilateral relationship between India and Dominica. The award ceremony will occur at the India CARICOM Summit, which is scheduled for November 19th to 21st in Georgetown, Guyana, with the President of Dominica, Sylvanie Burton, presiding over the event. In 2021, in the month of February, the Indian government under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership provided Dominica with 70,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The award acknowledges India's broader support for Dominica in areas such as education and information technology. Additionally, it highlights India's role in promoting initiatives focused on climate resilience and sustainable development on a global scale. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a social media post on X, shared a video of the Hindi lovers of Nigeria being enthused by Prime Minister's upcoming visit to that nation. PM further in his video on social media X.
दबे पाँव से कुछ कह रही है, आज के दिन कुछ खास है, पधारे हमारे यहाँ एक खास मेहमान है, खुशियों के साथ उनका स्वागत करते हैं और ये हमारा सौभाग्य है। भारत के माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नाइजीरिया के आने पर हम आपका हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं एवं अभिनंदन करते हैं। आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री मोदी जी भारत में तो एक लोकप्रिय हैं, आप विश्व के सर्वश्रेष्ठ नेताओं में से एक हैं। ये हमारे लिए अत्यंत गर्व और खुशी का क्षण है। आपका यहाँ होना हमारे लिए गर्व और सम्मान की बात है। हम सभी बहुत खुशी के साथ अपने देश नाइजीरिया में बाहें फैलाकर आपका स्वागत करते हैं एवं अभिनंदन करते हैं। हमें उम्मीद है कि आपकी यात्रा से भारत और नाइजीरिया के बीच में अर्थव्यवस्था और रिश्ते मजबूत होंगे। हम दोस्तों की तरफ से आपका सुस्वागतम करते हैं एवं अभिनंदन करते हैं।
हम खुशी से आपका बहुत स्वागत करते हैं।
जय नाइजीरिया, जय हिंद।
So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote in his social media post on X that the way Hindi lovers in Nigeria have shown enthusiasm for my visit there is very heart-touching. I am excited about this trip. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar released his book Why Bharat Matters at Mohammed bin Rashid Library in Dubai on Thursday. The book discusses India's evolving role in global arena, emphasizing the country's cultural values and global ambitions. Dr. Jaishankar said the book explores the significance of India's historical heritage, particularly drawing insights from the epic Ramayana.
In the Ramayana, it's the story of the king, Lord Rama, Prabhu Shri Ram. So think of him like a rising power, like India. And what happens is there is a sort of a preparation, then there is a training, then he's tested, there are tactics, there are strategies, there are ethics, and then there are some grand, there's a sort of grand finale. I mean, do you actually do this, can you actually bring yourself to address this enormous task before you? So in some ways, his life story is also a sort of a paradigm which is similar to a country like India, a big country, which is constantly tested, which has to make its choices, which has its dilemmas, like he has.
Earlier this morning, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar presided over the inauguration of Symbiosis International University's first overseas campus at the Dubai Knowledge Park. Along with Jaishankar, UAE's Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence, Sheikh Nayan bin Mubarak Al Nahyan, also attended the event. The ceremony marks a significant milestone in Indo-UAE relations. The campus aims to offer comprehensive programs in management, technology and media, focusing on developing 21st century skills while promoting collaboration aligned with the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, meaning the world is one family. Speaking on the occasion, the External Affairs Minister emphasized that this inauguration transcends mere institutional expansion, representing a significant milestone in India's educational outreach as envisioned in the National Education Policy 2020.
This is both a testimony to the Symbiosis International University's own quest for global academic excellence, as well as to our ever-deepening relationship. The new campus will offer courses in management, in technology, and media and communications. As one of the top universities in Asia, I'm confident that Symbiosis will replicate its outstanding quality of teaching and pedagogy in Dubai to prepare its students for 21st century skills.
An international conference on cyber law, cybercrime and cybersecurity was hosted in New Delhi on Thursday. The conference was hosted by eminent cybersecurity expert Pawan Duggal along with Justice Madan B. Lokur. The conference focused on the rising incidents on cybercrimes globally and how adequate measures need to be implemented to ensure a safe cyber ecosystem in a world which is increasingly getting connected to the internet for most of the financial aspects. A new climate finance goal emerged on the third day of the UN climate talks in Azerbaijan's Baku on Wednesday, which said that developing countries outside China need at least $1 trillion per year by the end of the decade to move to greener energy and protect against extreme weather. The issue of climate finance remains at the forefront of COP29. The previous goal of $100 billion annually, set in 2009 and intended to be met by 2020, was only reached in 2022, primarily through loans rather than grants, which many recipient nations argue needs revisiting. Despite behind-the-scenes negotiations, a draft text released by the United Nations climate body reflect a wide range of views, suggesting challenging negotiations ahead. Wealthy nations have shown reluctance to commit additional funding unless major economies like China agree to contribute. A report released by the independent high-level expert group on climate finance at the summit start advised that an annual target of $1.3 trillion would be necessary by 2035 to stay on track with climate goals, with greater investment required sooner to avoid significantly higher costs later.
So what kind of numbers for the investment? Well, that number for emerging markets and developing economies outside China is 2.4 trillion a year in 2030. Of course, the whole path matters, but in order not to get sort of lost in too many numbers, we focus on 2030 and we point and highlight the number 2.4 trillion as the overall investment needs.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. With no signs of a ceasefire, Israel hits Hezbollah strongholds across southern and central Lebanon again. And now you can explore India's northeastern seaplane as demo seaplane operations are launched in northeastern state of Meghalaya.
We are doing a deep dive into security dynamics in the Indo-Pacific region and also what this means going into the future for India and its rising position in the world.
The Quad has now become a foundational block within the Indo-Pacific, and the Biden administration has continued that momentum. Now, I don't see Trump Part 2 walking away from that, again, because it's something that they helped to resurrect.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has agreed to end his term earlier, calling for a vote of confidence next month and announcing that the election will be held in February 2025, 7 months before the elections were originally scheduled. In the first speech since the coalition collapse, he urged that Germany must not become as divided as the USA is at the moment. For more on what this means for the German economy, we have Varda Imran joining us from Berlin. Varda, let's start by talking about the budget and debt issues that caused this collapse. Has there been some progress since?
Thanks for having me. Chancellor Scholz addressed the parliament and faced a lot of questions from the conservative majority in the parliament. One point was aid for Ukraine. This has been a pressure point because multiple parties, including the far-right AfD party, have called for a suspension of military aid to Ukraine. This was also an issue when discussing budget and debt because Olaf Scholz, as he said to the parliament, Germany wants to support Kiev, but not at the expense of German prosperity. There's also the issue of passing the 2025 budget, which has been in deadlock for months. Scholz and his minority government is looking for partners in the parliament who can help him pass important legislation, including the budget. The debt break is still something there is no consensus on. Different parties have different approaches and takes. But Friedrich Merz, the man who many say is slated to be the next Chancellor of Germany, has said that this country needs a fundamentally different policy, especially when it comes to security and the economy.
And what kind of economy will Scholz leave behind once his reign is over?
Well, Germany is Europe's largest economy and traditionally has been an economic engine of sorts for the entire EU. This is a very vulnerable time for Germany, a second consecutive year of contractions of the economy and recession looming over its head. There is much anxiety within businesses as well. There's a lot of debate about trade tariffs, tensions with China, increased competition with the world, and what a second Trump presidency could mean for Germany, with the US president-elect previously saying he wants to levy 10 to 12% blanket tariff on imports, including those from Europe, which could end up contracting the market for these goods in the US. There's also the question of future support for Ukraine. This, he said, would be a key issue for the upcoming elections.
Thank you, Varda. Varda Imran reporting from DW Berlin. Moving on, Iran has said that it will never negotiate under pressure and intimidation. It was stated by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi during his meeting between International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi and him in Tehran on Thursday. Grossi has for months sought progress with Iran on issues including a push for more monitoring cooperation at nuclear sites and an explanation of uranium traces found at undeclared sites. But little has come from Grossi's efforts, and with the return of President-elect in the US, Donald Trump, who is widely expected to restore a maximum pressure policy on Iran, Grossi's trip should provide indications of how Iran wants to proceed in the coming months, while Araghchi said that Iran will continue their full cooperation with the IAEA. Israeli forces have launched fresh strikes across southern and central Lebanon again, carrying out at least 4 airstrikes on Wednesday. Israeli airstrikes pounded the Hezbollah-controlled southern suburbs for a second consecutive day as Lebanon waited to hear Washington's latest ceasefire proposals after a U.S. official expressed hope that a truce could be reached. The Israeli military said that its air force had destroyed 9 Hezbollah weapons storage facilities and command centers in strikes in the Beirut area, and that Hezbollah fired 40 projectiles into Israel. The exchange of fire came as right-leaning members of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet expressed support for President-elect Donald Trump's latest picks for his incoming administration. Meanwhile, Hezbollah said that it launched a drone attack targeting Israel's military headquarters and Ministry of Defense in the city of Tel Aviv on Wednesday. In a statement, the Lebanese militant group said that it conducted an aerial attack with a squadron of exploding drones on the site housing Israel's main defense institutions. In 2 statements on Wednesday, the military said that it had intercepted 2 drones and 40 projectiles launched from Lebanon in attacks that caused no injuries. Hezbollah and Israel have been in conflict since late September when Israeli military escalated its airstrikes on Lebanon and sent ground troops across the border. The 43rd India International Trade Fair is back in the national capital. The fortnight-long global trade fair brings 11 countries and over 3,500 exhibitors to showcase their art and culture. Viksit Bharat at 2047 is the theme for this year's fair. DD India's Anil Thomas has more.
The 43rd India International Trade Fair commenced at Bharat Mandapam, featuring over 3,500 exhibitors from India and abroad. This 14-day event is expected to draw around 100,000 visitors daily, with footfall rising by almost 50% to 150,000 visitors on the weekend. The theme for this year's fair is Developed India at 2047.
This year there are about 10 unique features of the IITF 43rd version 2024. It is designed around the Honorable Prime Minister's theme of Viksit Bharat, India at 2047. So this year, it is the largest ever participation which we have achieved so far. Almost all the states and union territories are participating, and this has happened only this year. Apart from this, the Bharat Mandapam complex is fully made operational and fully utilized for IITF for the first time.
The event will also see participation from 33 states and UTs and 49 central ministries. Bihar and Uttar Pradesh are the partner states, while Jharkhand is the focus state this year. 11 countries are also participating in the fair.
The annual event of prestigious IITF has a great significance to show a diverse range of products, services and technology from India and the world. Jharkhand, the land of natural resources and tribals, is going to be part of the IITF scheduled this year at Pragati Maidan, New Delhi as a focus state. This year, Jharkhand is participating in the IITF to showcase its rich culture and heritage. It gives me immense pleasure to extend my invitation to all the visitors to visit Jharkhand Pavilion.
The business days for IITF 2024 are scheduled from November 14th to 18th. Trade fair will be open for general public from November 19th to 27th. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
And next we take a look at other stories making news in India today. India's Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu Kinjarapu launched demo seaplane operations at Umayam Lake in the northeastern Indian state of Meghalaya on Thursday. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh led parliamentarians in paying floral tributes at the portrait of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in the central hall of Samvidhan Sadan that is housed inside the old Parliament House premises on his birth anniversary today. The Ras Mahotsav festival dedicated to Lord Krishna is all set to begin across the northeastern Indian state of Assam with major celebrations in Majuli and Charaidev. In Majuli, festivities from November 14th to 18th will feature unique performances, including an all-female artist troupe. And global music star Akon arrived in Shillong on Thursday. He's set to perform at the Cherry Blossoms Festival starting tomorrow. The The two-day festival on November 15th and 16th will feature a lineup of top artists including Jasleen Royal, Bonnie M and Kanika Kapoor. Local favourites like pop star Jessie Lingdo and Shillong Chamber Choir are also set to perform in the festival. So that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates from India and the world. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.